Welcome back to Games Revealed. I'm James on the Brink, and we are one. Today, I want to talk about the spooky season, the Halloween season. It is here, and I have 5 games that are sure to spook you on the go. And these games will be great anywhere that you want to play them, whether it be in the forest, a graveyard, a morgue, whatever it be. I might have already given away too much, but these games don't include the ghosts that you normally would encounter. Maybe an exception, but we'll get to that exception later, so make sure to watch the whole video. Grab your deck, grab your blanket, and a place to curl up as we talk about the 5 games to get you scared this Halloween season. And first up, you gotta like, subscribe, bash that bell with your crowbar. Now, this list is ordered from oldest to newest on the release, but this first game is also my favorite, so whatever, we're going to cover my favorite first. Dead Space 1. This game came out in 2008. The studio that developed this is now kind of dead, but they've resurrected a new studio to take on the remake. So before the remake comes out, make sure to play the original, and the original holds up so well. I'm so surprised. This one is the oldest on the list, and it's held up so well. You play as Isaac Clarke. You're in a group to investigate what happened to the Ishimura and essentially also your girlfriend. That's part of the reason you're there. And so you're the engineer and you're in that group. You start out. It doesn't take long before all shit hits the fan. And at times, sometimes that kind of does happen. It's not shit, but it's what used to be a human, and these what used to be humans, these enemies that you fight, are necromorphs. They're kind of like a zombie, so I do love the zombie aspect of it. And but they are spindly, weird meat sacks that just have protruding arms that can slice you and all that. The necromorphs are pretty creepy, and they do morph into different things. You also encounter necromorph babies, and you can hear my dog. He does not like these. These guys are very creepy, and they will pop out of nowhere, both the babies and anything else that's in this ship that you wander around as Isaac Clarke, listening to your girlfriend or some of the other members of the craft. Now, what makes this kind of really interesting is the different layers. I really love the story, but I also love how eerie the whole thing is. Parts of the ship are just abandoned. They're just so spooky in the sense of what's been shredded, what's still there, what's going to lie behind the next port opening. And with it comes a little bit of mind game, because there's an artifact on the ship that you have to uncover to see what it is. It affects people, and essentially is what creates these necromorphs, these meat sacks. And let's just say you get to see some psychosis, you get to see how it kind of controls people, but also it's created a religion called unitology. Yeah, that's kind of similar to some other religion that we might have heard of, but it's got just as weird of a philosophy, but this one happens to be true. So let's see if you can play through it, not get turned into a necromorph, and finish and unveil the first game and what's happened in it, because there are 2 other games. The Dead Space 2 is my favorite, and Dead Space 3, a lot of people don't like. I still think it's a great game, but you're going to have a good time in this series, and I do recommend it. It plays great on the deck, so make sure to play this. Next up is Outlast. This game, while the last game was third person, this game is first person, and you are an investigative reporter, a journalist, and if you've ever wanted to assume that role, kind of have a simulator of investigative and journalist and not have it be too boring, this might be the game for you. So you start out as this investigative journalist, Miles, and you going to this psychiatric hospital where you've been given a tip from someone that works there that, hey, something's going down there. You need to go investigate. So you have your camcorder like a good investigative journalist. You really want to get the story, because without the story, you do not get paid, because this is the real life. But it's not, because if this was real life, I would not want to live in this world, because some of the guys, some of the whatever you want to call them, because you do run into some creatures, humanoid things, whatever it is, does get weirder over time, but it is a fun game that you do not get to do any attacking, really. You run, you film, you do your job as a journalist. You do not fight. You're not a soldier in this. You are a journalist, and you got to get that footage. Because remember what we talked about, the story. You got to get the story. And in the end, this game is probably one of the freakier games for me out of this list because I just don't like the idea that I can't fight back. And also to add to the spookiness, I almost forgot night vision. You got to use the night vision on the camcorder, but it kills your batteries. So some areas you got to be able to see to run away or whatever it is. So you use that night vision, and it drains your batteries. So you also have the aspect of like, am I going to be able to see? This is a very dark game, and it's a little reminiscent of like Amnesia or some of those games like that. So make sure to go check this game out. Okay, this next one on my list is Evil Within 1. I love Evil Within 2. It's actually, that one's my favorite, but this Evil Within 1 is a lot of people's favorite and is really good. It is a psychological survival horror is what I'd kind of call it. It's because it's got that mind and it will mess with your mind at times, as along with the protagonist's mind in this game. You play as Sebastian, and you are pulled into this really bizarre world when you go to investigate a crime, because you're a detective, and you get to this mental hospital. And it really doesn't take long before you start realizing, yeah, there's a crime scene here. There's a lot of bodies, a lot of blood. That dude with the meat hatchet that's chopping up that body might be a suspect, but you got to run away from him. And that is the beginning of the game. You got to get out of that mental hospital. And when you do get out, it doesn't take long to get out, but that's where the real journey into the mind goes. And with that, you get a myriad of different weapons. It's third person. It's a lot like Resident Evil. You have a save room that has a receptionist at the start. So when you enter it through a mirror or through a cutscene, which is really, I love this aspect of it. You're greeted by a receptionist every time. And then you have an area where you can upgrade. You can walk around and unveil maybe some parts of the story and upgrades and save. And it's a safe room / save room. And I love this aspect of it. But in the world, you also have some pretty creepy enemies you're going to have to fight that are just, it just has twists and whatnot. The story's really good. The characters are horrid. They're nightmarish. And the location's nightmarish. Everything about this has that level of just like, if you like the bloody horror movies that really mess with your mind, you're going to love this one. Now, those types of movies I like. This type of game is just so much better. It's so much better to experience it and be in the seat along the way of what can happen to you if you're sucked into some other world, into someone else's mind. And so this one would be probably one of the worst ones to happen to you out of all my list. So with that, let's just hope we don't end up in Evil Within, the world that is. This next game, Darkwood. This game is, honestly, it's a surprising one on my list. It is a top-down, kind of older school style indie game. It came out in 2017 on PC. It is fun. It's got that eeriness to it. And the eeriness comes from the audio, the music, the sounds, the atmosphere. Does a really good job for being a top-down, older style looking game. It really is. Still has that creepy factor to it. And I definitely recommend it on the deck because it's going to honestly save you some battery. So you can play in that dark forest even longer while you're playing Darkwood. And also you get to wander around this forest, and it's based in the Soviet bloc in 1980s. What happened? You are a doctor. You're exploring. It is semi-open world where you open up locations over time or through events, and you have NPCs to chat with that you can further get into the story, and you can finish this game. But it is a survival horror. You have to pick up items. You have to continue to survive throughout the night. If you die at night, you lose all your progress, but you do wake up in the morning in your bed in this house, and there's just a lot of different aspects to it. The start can be a little tough to get through, but once you get through that, it gets better as you get going along. It is very fun, but it's also one of the more different ones on this list, but it plays really well in the Steam Deck as well as all these other games. So make sure to check it out. The last game on this list is Maid of Sker, and it's set in 1898, and it's set at this Sker hotel that's imaginary, along with the island, Sker Island. The hotel is named after the island, which is very original. And then you're playing as the protagonist, Thomas Evans, and your lover, Elizabeth Williams, had to go there for family business and sing and whatnot. She's requested your help, that you need to create this counter song to this, whatever's happening to them at this hotel, this island. You're going to learn a couple of things about Elizabeth and her family, and about some of the creatures slash cultists slash whatever they are, the quiet ones that you run into as you play the game. That is the enemy. They will attack you, and your only weapon is not making noise. Not really. I mean, it's you get a weapon midway through, but you essentially fight back by not making noise. You just got to play that stealth game, and you can bump into items. So if you're wandering around and hitting areas, like hitting against items potentially, it will make noise. The closer you get to these enemies, you will also start to cough and whatnot. So you got to be careful about what you do in this game. And I'm not normally a stealth person, but this game is fun. It reminds me of BioShock with its era a little bit. And then you have Outlast, because you can't really fight back in it, but you can escape. Now, this game does have save rooms or safe rooms where you're safe and you can save on these gramophones. It is also a first-person perspective kind of game, wandering around this old hotel, and you have to figure out what's going on. You have to gather these cylinders to, defeat the cult at the end. And just know that if you want something that's creepy, that's eerie, that has a good atmosphere, that's old-timey, that does have that old feel to it, which it can add to some eeriness, this game is quite fun, and I do recommend it. Hold up. You're not scared enough? You need a little bit more? Yeah, I know I promised 5, but you've never known me to be an honest person when it comes to these lists. I'm going to give you more bonus games. But real quick, first up, Alan Wake. You are playing a game that was developed by the same people that made Max Payne, but then they made it a little eerier. You're a novelist named Alan Wake. Yes, that's the name in the game. And you go and travel to this town in Bright Falls, Washington, with your wife. And honestly, things get eerie, things get weirder over time as you play through this, and you realize the events that are occurring, how much they could be tied to the real world in some metaphorical way. It is a game where you have a weapon, you have the light, and you fight against the darkness, and you have a handgun and some other weapons. So in the end, at least you have a weapon. And then the Mortuary Assistant, which is very spooky. It's got that ghostness. So if you really need a game that has a lot of spooky, haunting, ghost-like entities in it, this game is for you. As you play as an assistant at this morgue, you have to bring out the bodies, examine them, and this is what adds creepiness. For me, it's not as creepy because I'm expecting it, but it's still so as you grab onto areas, look at it, things can happen, things can pop out. Come to find out, it's demons. It's essentially a possession, and it does get kind of creepy and weird at times. A lot of things can happen. A lot of what will happen at the morgue, what will happen to the bodies, what happened to your mind. A lot happens here, and it is fun. And a lot of YouTubers, a lot of people have been playing this, and I have to say, I've played it too, and I do have a YouTube video of it, but I recommend it. On the Steam Deck, though, it did work for me a couple of weeks ago. It stopped working for me recently, but if you can get this to work, it is really fun on the Steam Deck, and it plays really well for me. Like I said, though, it stopped working for some reason, so maybe wait until an update or whatnot before you get this. Next up is Resident Evil 2 and 7. Yeah, you're probably surprised that you didn't see a Resident Evil 2 or 7 on the main list, but that's because I'm saving those for maybe next time, whatnot. They do play great on the Steam Deck, but I've mentioned them a lot over the past few months, and I figured let's put them into the bonus round as they are really creepy and scary, but some of the other games I mentioned earlier are that's kind of just what they are. With Resident Evil 7, being very freaky because you have to go meet your in-laws. I mean, there's nothing freakier than that, but on top of it, your in-laws are crazy. So there's not much different, except for these in-laws will chop your arm off. They will do whatever they can to you. And it is, honestly, it has a very creepy vibe to it. It's because of what's infecting them that's driving them crazy. So you get to see that horror. Then you got Resident Evil 2, which has that, classic zombie with specialty zombies or whatever that the manufactured zombies are. And it does have, like, you're wandering around the police station, some other areas, and it does get very eerie at times, and you have to deal with the liquor zombie things that will jump out of anywhere and attack you. Both great games. Let me know in the comments below, what is your favorite horror game to play during the season, during any time? What is the scariest game you've ever played? What will get you just afraid? And what could you play in the middle of the woods or in a cemetery that would just absolutely do you in? I want to know in the comments below. And also, what would you put on this list? Which game out of this list did you like the most? What would you put on it? And with that, we'll do more of these in the future. So don't worry, like, this list is not the quintessential only horror games you can play on the Steam Deck. These are just games I've been having fun with for the past little bit. So I want to know what you think. And with that, check out the description below where you'll find the games, links to the games. There's sales going on, especially during Halloween for these types of games. So make sure to check those out if you want them. But if you really want to try to get them, you could also win them through my contest, which is going on right now. If you're watching this the day of, or, you know, a couple days afterwards, up until November 2nd, 2022. After that, you'll have to wait until the next Halloween season to enter this contest, where you're going to take your Steam Deck, you're going to go find a scary place, you're going to take a photo, a picture, a video, which I guess pictures and photos are the same thing. It could be in the middle of the woods, just take a picture. I think that's scary enough. You don't have to do any photo editing or anything if you don't want. You can just say, hey, look, and give you a little bit of a story, like, this place that I'm playing the Steam Deck is claimed to be haunted. This house, this abandoned house that I'm in playing the Steam Deck, is claimed to be haunted. That's what I want to see. I want to see some creepy photos. And you can go to the Discord server for Games Revealed and submit in the Halloween contest channel, or you can submit on gamesrevealed.com when that is up and ready, and there will be announcements for that. And check out my other videos, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace out later. And that is the beginning of the game. You got to get out of that mental health